This is Tyranny, one of Obsidian's perhaps lesser known RPGs, but great nonetheless. It's a game where you play as the baddies, and it's got some really just great story moments and characters, and yeah, so without further ado, let's start it. Hard difficulty. If it's too hard, I can turn it down. I'm not too worried about achievements.
For over 100 years, the armies of Kyros Overlord have swept across the known world. All who stood against them fell before their might. Even the Archons, women and men of immense power, were forced to kneel, chained to the Overlord's will. Now Kyros' final conquest has come to our corner of the world, and two of the Overlord's armies compete for the honor of taking our lands. The elite disfavored, and the teeming horde of the Scarlet Chorus. The voices of Nerat, spymaster and Archon of secrets, guides the fierce and undisciplined masses of the Scarlet Chorus. With each battle, the Scarlet Chorus grows stronger, as the defeated are given a simple choice: serve or die. Graven Ash, Archon of War and the Overlord's most loyal general, leads the disfavored. Though small in number, Kyros' ironclad legion has never met true defeat in open battle. Watching over the two generals is Tyranny, the Adjudicator, Archon of Justice, eldest of Kyros' minions. Tyranny brings Kyros' laws to newly conquered lands, aided by the Fatebinders, judges and executioners of the Overlord's laws. You were among the youngest of the court of Fatebinders when Kyros' armies came to our lands. How could we have known that the fate of thousands would rest in your hands?
Sweet. So as usual, we're going to be playing a female who is a more unscrupulous type. It's kind of a cool picture. Even though we're going to be using bows, in fact. Not swords, but whatever.
Moving cautiously. My wounds are slowing me down. Interesting. Heads up, we have... You learn something every day. I'll just hold on to this.
On the lookout. My wounds are slowing me.
Aggressive. See if there's any cool tats. Oh, I don't know about that. Sure, nice and simple. The Black Hand of Saruman. Okay. I'm happy with that. How did you join Kyros' army? I'll go ahead and read all these. So, the pit fighter. Not wishing to pay to feed and house too, the madam that purchased your mother sold you to the Proving Grounds, the Northern Empire's bloodiest, most notorious fighting arena. Given only enough training to assure the show isn't over too soon, your natural prowess and survival instincts led you to one victory after another. There was no elegant swordplay, no formalized duels, Just brutal melee and the stench of blood, shit, and bronze with each day's gruesome necessities. It's said that any fighter that slays a dozen others in the grand melee is given her freedom, but in 300 years, only 3 warriors have ever walked away from the proving grounds. When the closing horn sounded and the 13 corpses lay about your feet, you became the 4th to be granted freedom to thunderous applause. But this autonomy was short-lived. Within days, your word of accomplishment made its way to the Archon of Justice. We've got Hunter. When the leader of your home village spoke out of turn one time too many, agents of the Overlord put the whole town to the torch to contain the spread of insubordination. The Bounding Viper tribe came across the smoking ruins of your village, and when the beast matriarch found you frozen but unafraid, the mighty leader took you in and raised you with the protection of her tribe. For years you have lived with these wild beastmen in their migratory homes throughout the mountains, but the Bounding Vipers were a dying breed. Each long winter took a greater toll than the last, and once the dwindling tribe was too weak to defend its land, disfavored soldiers came to dispense of the ravenous scavengers your tribe had become. Finding a human amongst the wild tribe, the disfavored soldiers made a point of taking you alive. News of the wild child of the north eventually spread to the Archon of Justice, and he ordered you released from captivity and delivered to his court. That's so fucking cool. I like that one, and we're a bow user, so that's a good chance we'll pick that, but we're not done yet. Guild Apprentice. Each of these, by the way, gives you unique dialogue options, and it can, like, certain situations that would always be a fight, or maybe you need super high of a certain stat to talk your way out of it or whatever. If you have a certain background, you can get out of shit or see dialogue you wouldn't normally see. But anyway, Guild Apprentice. Deeply proud of your intelligence. Your parents always knew you were too smart for a life spent with your hands in the soil. I disagree with that. You can be smart and work outside, but whatever. Looking to secure a better future, your parents struck a bargain with the Seven Tree Guild, a magical order willing to teach you letters, numbers, and magic, if you prove capable. For several years, you learned much from the mages, mastering reading and writing faster than the rest, and eventually learned the basics of mystic theory and spellcraft. Your magical studies came to an abrupt halt when the voices of Narat, the Archon of Secrets, deemed the guild a peacetime distraction that must be disbanded for the upcoming war. Its mages assigned to proper armies. While your peers went on to other guilds, your mind was seen as too valuable to be wasted on the armies. Instead, your life was claimed by Tunon, the Archon of Justice. Noble Scion. Born to noble parents, you were groomed for leadership. Your youth spent on letters, history, rhetoric, and other matters of culture and statecraft. Though you had wealth and creature comforts, you were expected to grow up quickly and bear the honor of shepherding others through prosperity and war. When your parents came under accusation of sedition, you were sent to the court of Tunon, Archon of Justice, to defend your family's actions. Your parents were found guilty. Their sentence, the dissolution of the treasonous estate. Eloquently pleading your own ignorance on your family's actions, you negotiated your most important deal yet. Immunity from the crimes of your family for the simple cost of swearing fealty to the Archon himself. Despite the unwilling induction, your education and savvy made you valuable addition to the Archon's cadre of enforcers. So as long as you remain in good standing, your family just might be allowed to live. This is another pretty cool one, but we're not a noble, like... And every time it's my similar female character. She's very chaotic and doesn't love authority. So yeah, we're not a noble scion by any stretch. Soldier. Unable to settle the year's accounts with grain, your parents offered you as a tithe to the Overlord instead. Seeing your first battles as a child, you've known all your life how to fight, how to stay calm at the sight of blood and disembowelment, and how to rely on your fellow warriors. Deemed smarter than the average killer, you were groomed for command and given an education in letters and numbers. With rumors of war, it seemed recruitment into the disfavored legion would be the obvious match for your skills. But the Archon of Justice is known to say that good iron is not used for swords, and good minds are not used for soldiers. Claimed by Tunon, you were instead drafted into the court of Fatebinders, where your martial skills were put to the use in enforcement of Kyros' laws. Lawbreaker. Accused of a crime you most certainly did commit, you stood before Tunon the Adjudicator, Archon of Justice, and argued your case with eloquence and conviction. Impressed by your logic, reason, and confidence, he found you guilty anyway. It is rumored that Tunon selects many of his agents from his prisoners, Who better to catch the wicked than those versed in such ways? In his mercy, Tunon offered you the choice of 2 sentences: decades languishing in prison, or a lifetime serving him in the court of the Fatebinders. The choice was an easy one, and instead of seeing inside of a cell, you were trained in letters and numbers, magic and war. The laws you once broke are now yours to interpret and enforce. War Mage. Few have the combination of wits and courage to be accomplished casters and warriors, and those cursed with such a combination of talents are invariably pulled from their mundane lives and assigned to the armies of the Archons. Your earliest memories are a painful slog of training, study, lecture, and exhaustion, all the elements of being groomed for battle. You knew better than to ask what had become of your family, nor to question the missives allegedly penned by their hand that were part of your earliest lessons in reading. When you reached adulthood, Tunon the Adjudicator came to the barracks and laid claim to your life. Seeing you as too valuable for the crucible of battle, the Archon of Justice deemed your life better spent dedicated to the art of punitive legal remedies. Though you had much to learn in matters of civil discourse, none could deny your bright future as Tunon's greatest enforcer. Finally, we have Diplomat. Though they will never tell you why, Kyros bestowed great wealth upon your family for some unmentioned service, and your parents used this wealth to raise you far from home. Your childhood was a nomadic tour of Tyranny, with hired tutors and fleeting friendships. Where others had stability and routine, you had worldly and varied education. A careless word in a far-flung city landed you in legal trouble, and you were taken before Tunon the Adjudicator and made to stand trial. Not only did you plead your innocence, but you turned the accusations around on the accuser for wasting the court's time, and the Archon of Justice concurred. Amused by your wit, wisdom, and adaptability, Tunon claimed you as his newest enforcer. I like Huntress. We're a wild woman that was forcibly conscripted. I guess you are in every single one, but we lived with beastmen. It's just awesome. Primary expertise, we're all in on bow with this character. There's party members in this game like any other isometric PC RPG, so we'll be able to do magic and swords and everything else with them. Secondary expertise, again with bows, it gives you, I want both the bow abilities, and your starting skills are determined by your specialization, and short bow twice gives us 8 to bows, 7 to subterfuge, 3 to dodge, 3 to athletics. We want subterfuge because subterfuge lets us open locks, find traps, as well as use dialogue to deceive or trick people, or just generally be savvy in dialogue. Character colors. Oh man, you can look pretty sick. I'll settle on that now. That nice deep red, almost a little bit of purple in there. Banner. Ooh, what banner fits our lass here? The Huntress with the tree, perhaps. We want something that strikes fear into the heart. Oh, the claw to symbolize our childhood with the beastmen. You can change this later. Just I won't spend too long on it. Alright, we'll go with that. As always, she is Siren. There is actually a companion in this game. Well, fuck it. It might be a little confusing. What shall we name her? Fuck it. We are Siren, as always. Usually a bard, but there's no bards in this. We want, so basically, might is how much damage you do. Finesse, it's for everything. Finesse is how accurate you are, which is of vital importance. Quickness is how fast you can use your abilities, not your attack, not like your basic attacks, but your abilities. So it's really good for like mages and other people that have tons of abilities. It's okay, but I really need damage and accuracy. Like if I'm not, I need that accuracy so when I hit someone, they actually take fucking damage. Otherwise, it's not good. Vitality, yeah, I mean, it determines the strength of your personality, so that actually might have dialogue consequences, but it's also physical health. Since I'm an archer, it's not a priority. Wits describes the character's mental acuity, their ability to observe their environment and pick up clues. Wits is used to increase spell strength as well as magic defense. I don't use spells, so I don't need it. Resolve is your ability to endure physical and mental challenges. It's the primary attribute used to drive all your defenses, and it increases the duration of your magical affliction. So that's another kind of mage thing. So yeah, we'll be fine with this. I think most dialogue isn't determined by your stats. So it's not, you don't get punished for specializing. Like if I was a mage, I would probably dump, I don't know, it depends on what you do. If you're like a mage that just buffs people or does stuff that doesn't do damage, it kind of, you can build it different ways. Like you'll see there's tons of spells and spell schools in this. As for skills, I want subterfuge, so there's athletics, determines, you have to, at the beginning, you have to split it between these. I don't remember how progression works, but we're only going to be using bows. So as far as that, put it at 50. Support skills. Athletics determines a character's ability to traverse difficult terrain as well as their ability to execute complicated moves in combat. Athletics is also used in dialogue to determine your ability to intimidate or physically overpower someone. Yeah, that's nice because we like to have as many dialogue options as possible. Dodge defends against range attacks or magic spells. It will reduce damage taken or cause enemies to miss. It's fine, but it's not a priority. Subterfuge. Subterfuge skill determines a character's ability to move unseen through their environment, to detect and manipulate hidden traps and devices, and to open locked chests and doors. It's also used in dialogue to determine your ability to trick people and other things. So there's also lore and parry. Lore is only for people who use magic. I don't plan on using magic. It also actually is good in dialogue. So that's the only unfortunate part, is that I won't be able to get all the dialogues because I'm not going to be using lore. It's basically for two things, for magic users and for dialogue. I can try to maybe put a little bit, but there's just not enough points. That's the problem. If I can later, I will. I mostly want athletics and subterfuge right now. I'm actually gonna go with, well, I'm on hard, so this should be okay. I want to get subterfuge pretty high, pretty quick, because I want to be able to guarantee I get all my dialogue options. So this game starts with like a conquest. You can skip it, which I do not recommend, or you can do it and you get to make choices and kind of mold your character a little bit and start the game with certain people liking you, certain people not liking you. It can change whole story areas. It can change, like, towns will be different, characters, give you more dialogue. So it's well worth doing.
All the world has fallen to Kyros. And now the Overlord's eye is on the Tiers, our home. The last corner of the world free of Kyros' reign. two armies. The Disfavored and the Scarlet Chorus marched south from the Northern Empire, the last realm to fall to Kyros a century prior. In the early days of 428, Kyros' armies arrive at the Gates of Judgment, the mountainous border that we Tearsmen so long believed unassailable. Unable to agree on a unified plan of defense, the various leaders of the Tears sit and wait for each other to deal with the conquerors, until it's too late.
During the Conquest, you will decide your character's actions during Kyros' invasion of the Tears, shaping the world through which you will adventure over the course of the game. Each choice you make affects your character and how major factions of the Tears respond to you. Your decisions matter. Choose wisely. The bastard city stood on the northern border between Kyros' empire and the Tears. Built upon a natural harbor at the crossroad between the realms, the city was a nexus of commerce. To the Tears, it was the center of all wealth. To a northerner, it was little more than a backwater trading post. Its symbolic status as a gateway to the continent made it a natural first target in Kyros' military conquest. Circumstances were ideal for you to prove your worth as a soldier in Kyros' army. Taking the city would send a message for the rest of the Tears. Kyros' will is insurmountable. So, some background. Northerners are where Kyros is a name out of legend. For centuries, the Overlord has consolidated power, sending vast armies to swallow entire realms. The most powerful mystic the world has ever seen, Kyros can issue edicts, magical proclamations that level cities, spread pox, sunder the lands, or change the course of seasons. So yeah, he's like a god emperor. And the Tears are where this takes place. It's a realm they're invading, and they're from the north. So that's why it says, to Northerners, this place is shithole. But to the Tears, it's a beautiful city. So yeah, the Northerners don't think highly of anyone but themselves. Infiltrate the Tears. History would remember the Gates of Judgment as the first battle of the Conquest, but the real combat unfolded with the advance units of both armies, preparing for the coming war. The Disfavored and the Scarlet Chorus each had a plan to infiltrate the capital city. Which army did you join? So, basically, we'll go ahead and read the differences. The Scarlet Chorus is little more than a gang of thugs and their captive slaves. Rather than organized under commissioned officers, the chorus follows a hierarchy seemingly ruled by whoever has the bravado to command and defend their position. At the head of this chaotic pecking order, the Archon of Secrets, better known as the Voices of Nerat, treats the Scarlet Chorus as his personal army. The Scarlet Chorus often suffers tremendous losses after battle, only to swell in the aftermath when captured enemies and collateral prisoners are given to the opportunity to join or die. Okay, so yeah, they're the more chaotic faction. Then you've got the Disfavored. They are disciplined and battle-hardened. The Disfavored are an elite legion in Kyros' army. They spearheaded the conquest of the younger realms, finding themselves always outnumbered but never outclassed. Led by the steadfast and dutiful Graven Ash, whom they follow with obsessive devotion, they are committed to imposing their interpretation of order upon the relative lawlessness of the Tears. The Legion only tolerates Northerners in their ranks, priding themselves on their high standards and cultural purity. Well, I was captured as this conscript and forced to. So I have a lot more sympathy for the Scarlet Chorus. So we're probably going to be more aligned with them. You join the Scarlet Chorus as they raided villages and towns, conscripting every able-bodied man and woman of the army. The Voices of Nerat emphasized the rewards of conscription and enslavement over wanton bloodshed. Apparently, his soldiers needed the reminder. The howling mobs of the Scarlet Chorus found easy pickings among the villagers and frontier towns. Rallying an experienced gang under your control, you flooded the unprotected settlements with a deluge of bloodthirsty soldiers, rounding up the innocent for merciless rites of conscription. The young and infirm alike received makeshift weapons, and examples were made of all those who challenged your forces. Bolstered with fresh recruits, your army gathered strength for the invasion to come. Containing the fire. Your fiercest opponents in the Bastard City were mages of the School of Wild Wrath, too barbaric to use their powers responsibly. The unbridled practitioners needed to be stopped. How did you trick the hot-tempered mages into their own undoing? You tricked the guild elders into meeting with the voices of Narat, Archon of Secrets. The Archon was notorious for his cruel and mysterious interrogation techniques. The mages were never seen again. There were few who could describe what horrors the Archon of Secrets visited upon his enemies during the conquest. Whether the elder mages knew little of the Archon's reputation or met him out of curiosity didn't matter. Once the flap of the Archon's tent closed, none of them were ever heard from again, save for a strangled cry of alarm that ended just as swiftly. Leaderless, the School of Wild Wrath fell into disorder, and the remaining members were slain by the disfavored or conscripted into the Scarlet Chorus. Betrayal of the Bastard City. Your tactics of infiltration placed you in the Bastard City ahead of the main armies. Your work softened the city's defenses for the arrival of Kyros' forces, but you wanted a decisive gesture that would give your allies a meaningful advantage. How did you assist in the fall of the Bastard City? Each choice gives us a different ability, so we're going to pick based on that. Warrior's Respite, damage reduction, and we heal. Searing Palm, meh. It's like a magic spell. Concealing Shadows. Create a cloud of obscuring shadows and dust. For a short duration, enemies that use physical attacks against you have a significantly increased chance to miss. During this time, your attacks will also be useless. Okay, we'll take that. I like that. Keeping to the shadows, you eliminated the leaders of the Bastard City one by one. Some deaths were quiet and unnoticed, while others were gruesome beyond words. As a wave of murder overtook the city's elite, your deeds swelled in infamy. Well before the armies arrived, no one in the Bastard City felt safe in their homes, much less behind their walls. By the time Kyros' forces crested the horizon, the city was fearful enough to throw open the gates and welcome their new protectors. The Bastard City settled into a new state of normalcy, with every single tower displaying Kyros' banner. Your name was whispered alongside rumors of a decorated career to come. The armies divided into two fronts and migrated south. Tunon sent word that you were to join the next frontier of Kyros' conquest, either as judge and overseer of the settlement of Lethian's Crossing or as a war advisor with the armies advancing to the realm of Apex. Let's see. Lethian's Crossing. Deposits of iron made the settlement of Lethian's Crossing a strategic war asset. Kyros sent the Forgebound, smith mages of exceptional skill, to establish a flow of weaponry. Tunon the Adjudicator sent one of his Fatebinders to ensure the enforcement of Kyros' law. And we've got Apex. The troops of the mountain realm of Apex stood idle in the safety of their valley, biding their time as their neighbors in the Bastard tier fell. In the second year of the war, a joint force of the disfavored and Scarlet Chorus crossed over the mountains to take control of the tier Central Valley. Oh, I didn't explain who. So Tunon is Kyros' main judge, basically. Tunon the Adjudicator. So I'm just trying, it'll help you a lot. It'll take time, but once you understand who's who, it's good. This is a good lore, good game. Very interesting. Tunon the Adjudicator is the Archon of Justice, ruler of the conquered realms, and arbiter of disputes, oldest of the Archons sent to conquer the tiers. Tunon speaks with Kyros' authority. His true appearance remains hidden behind an iron mask, the face of judgment. Tunon is an impartial, sober creature, wholly obsessed with justice and order. Though assumed to be a powerful combatant, Tunon rarely strays from his throne room, entrusting his court of fate-binders to act as his eyes and ears, as well as judges, juries, and executioners. We'll go to Lethian's Crossing. Iron deposits sound nice. Years ago, Lethian the Bold founded a small merchant town at the intersection of ancient old walls. A pact between the settlers and a mercenary company meant that the caravans were able to travel without fear of bandits or bane, and the town thrived in modest insignificance. Lethian's Crossing drew Kyros' attention for the iron deposits in the surrounding hills. With the region under Kyros' control, the northern smith mages could set up workshops to refine ore and arm the disfavored with the finest weapons in the known world. The Archon of Secrets dismantled the mercenary support with a generous bribe, taking the crossing in a bloodless victory. Tunon dispatched you to travel along Kyros' forces and bring order to the region. We've got the Cult of Siren, the Archon of Song. Her power ensnared the mind of a disfavored soldier, or we've got the Iron Must Flow. Okay, here we go. Kyros' smith mages worked day and night to create weapons. No one faulted their dedication, yet production was low. The plans that came to light proved divisive to the disfavored and Scarlet Chorus. On one hand, any additional manpower was needed for the fighters, not forges. On the other hand, the celebrated weaponry of Kyros' armies needed to be fiercely guarded. And then we've got the Cult of Siren. Siren, Archon of Song, used her arcane charm to lure locals into joining Kyros' army. As a patroness of the Scarlet Chorus, her efforts were critical to the conscription of new soldiers. When an enthralled, disfavored soldier joined her cult, his company feared that the Archon was growing out of control and needed to be stopped. Okay, we'll go with the Iron Must Flow. You conscripted help from a local beastman tribe. Their strength would have more than offset their disobedience. The disfavored protested that savages have access to the secrets of iron, but their voices were few compared to the support of the Scarlet Chorus. Yeah, we're loyal to the chorus. The disfavored can suck a fucking dick. They're a bunch of, like, arrogant pricks that think that I'm not even a human because I'm not from the north. The Scarlet Chorus were overjoyed to learn of beastmen's conscription and graciously lent their support to your cause. The local beastmen were subdued and yoked to iron-bearing wagons, where their boundless strength and tirelessness proved critical to smith mages. The disfavored grew agitated about exposing the secret of iron to savages. You attempted to allay their concerns, but your words fell flat before a stubborn, uncompromising audience. We've got two more choices. A Guardian's Due. Kyros' army used Lethian's Crossing as a reprieve from the war. The city grew more crowded as a mercenary hired by the Archon of Secrets occupied the barracks, where they drained resources and escalated tensions. The disfavor wanted nothing to do with the sellswords, but the Scarlet Chorus sought to invite them into the fold. We've got Pick of the Armory. Since you aided the production of weapons, commanders of both armies lobbied for additional arms. They offered all manner of bribes to be next in line for a fitting session with the Masters of the Forge. How did you sate the lust for iron? I gave the iron arms to the Scarlet Chorus, which would piss the disfavored off to no end because iron's valuable and they don't think peasants deserve to even use it. The Scarlet Chorus is basically a giant, Russia World War II tactics, human wave shit. You gave the iron arms to the Scarlet Chorus commanders, knowing they pay very well for any killing tool. Weaponry of such a claim was typically reserved for the highest disfavored officers, but you were open to changing tradition under the circumstances. If nothing else, the Scarlet Chorus were wont to pay for services rendered. As a reward for arming a notorious gang boss with the finest weapons, Horde soldiers around the camp found excuses to palm you rings or other valuables throughout the Apex campaign. You could hardly cross from one end of the camp to the other without your belt string jingling a personal anthem of wealth. The disfavored watched the chorus lieutenants parade about with bravado, themselves disgusted with the display. Who controlled the crossing? Tragedy struck when a mercenary hired by the voices of Narat injured a forge-bound artisan, leaving him unable to protect his craft. Tunon ordered the mercenaries to leave the city in the hands of Kyros, in the hands of Kyros' more responsible servants. Only a token garrison could be left behind while the armies returned to the front. As the disfavored and Scarlet Chorus showed increasing tension and hostility towards each other, Tunon decreed it best that only one of the forces controlled the crossing. Of course, I'm going to give control of the crossing to the Scarlet Chorus. The Scarlet Chorus flooded Lethean's crossing with overeager and undisciplined recruits, and the first few days of occupation, settlers suffered under rampant theft, murder, rape, and arson. By the following week, the hordemen who sowed chaos for personal gain were dead, strung up by the more disciplined half that took up the reins as the self-appointed boss of Lethean's crossing. The forge-bound continued to mint iron weapons and armor, which Kyros' merchant carted to the disfavored garrisons elsewhere in the tiers. Shipments were light, or sometimes absent. The Scarlet Chorus quartermaster claimed ignorance on the matter. All right, and a choice of where to go. With the mercenaries expelled and Lethean's crossing under new leadership, Kyros' forces congratulated themselves on bringing order to the settlement and guaranteeing a productive flow of resources. Over the course of this diversion, the army front advanced further into the tiers. Your skills were needed in the realm of Azure, Stalwart, or the Vellum Citadel. Let's go Vellum first. The Vellum Citadel was an archive and library of massive scale. Its inhabitants were known as the School of Ink and Quill, a circle of mages that, centuries ago, carved out their own mountainous refuge on lands unsettled by the other major realms. Legend said that the Citadel housed a treasure trove of arcane knowledge. The Overlord's spies infiltrated the school and confirmed as much. The time was ripe to send a detachment to the great library fortress and force the scholars to yield to Kyros. We've got two choices. Song of Ensnarement. Siren, Archon of Song, used her powers to enthrall enemy mages who crept beyond the Citadel walls. After Kyros' forces rounded up the arcane practitioners, the disfavored began executing the new captives before they could share dangerous knowledge, a crime under Kyros' law with the Scarlet Chorus. Chain of Command. A detachment of Kyros' army marched on the Vellum Citadel, expecting an orderly surrender. As they neared the main gates, a blast of arcane energy struck the commanders dead. Suddenly, the highest-ranking officer alive, Kyros' forces look to you for the next steps. The call weighed on your mind, as it has an immediate influence on soldiers' losses. Huh. We'll go with, you punish the disfavored for executing the mages bound to the Scarlet Chorus. Yeah, they killed mages that we wanted to recruit. Ordering that several disfavored soldiers be given to the Archon of Song as their personal bodyguard. Disfavored's gonna hate me. Song of Ensnarement. The wisdom of the sages and knowledge of the Vellum Citadel were too important to silence. The disfavored balked at entering the Archon's service, but your ruling left them with no recourse. Archon Siren delighted in having new toys to play with and promptly enthralled her personal guard. You spotted them in camp days later, following their new mistress with wide-eyed devotion. The Right of Command. The Archon of Song incited Scarlet Chorus recruits to fight their leaders. Bosses were killed and supplanted left and right. The disfavored demanded an end to the practice for the good of the Conquest. Spymaster's agents. A group of enemy mages surrendered to the disfavored, claiming to be spies loyal to the voices of Narat. No one in the army could verify the claim. The disfavored readied to interrogate the mages, but the Scarlet Chorus protested, demanding that the prisoners be given to their custody. They couldn't risk the voices of Narat's secrets falling into the wrong hands. You ignored the disfavored threats, sharply reminding them that they marched at Kyros' orders and not on their own whims. The mages were released into the custody of the Scarlet Chorus. The Scarlet Chorus accepted the mages into their company with gratitude. After secreting them within tents and out of earshot, you presume that a discussion of interrogation followed. When asked about it the following day, the Scarlet Chorus admitted that they sent the mages to the voices of Narat, with an escort dispatching them under cover of night without due authorization. You reprimanded the soldiers for keeping you out of the loop, but there was nothing else to be done. Edict of Fire. Disgusted by your approbation of the Scarlet Chorus, the disfavored forces withdrew from the field of battle. Your small detachment now lacked the manpower to take the Vellum Citadel. Tunon sent the word that Kyros' patience had run thin. The Overlord would cast an Edict of Fire on the enemy. So we'll go ahead and read about an edict. Kyros' most powerful magic is that of the Edict. Commandments cast upon whole regions that can control and destroy man and nature alike. Once cast, an edict can rain fire, wither crops, demoralize cities, usher in endless night, or do whatever it is that Kyros has envisioned. No known force, magical or mundane, can stop an edict, though each edict is often worded to include some condition or contingency that will see its end. So if you do something in a certain, like if some certain condition is fulfilled, the edict will end, in theory. Some edicts have been short-lived, delivering days of wanton catastrophe, just as many have lingered for centuries. The parchment arrived in a slender case of engraved iron. Written on it, the words of a spell powerful enough to destroy the Vellum Citadel. You had the choice of when to read the edict. Reading it at sunrise would offer your enemies no warning of the devastation to come. You could also wait until sunset, giving them ample time to flee and make amends. Yeah, claiming that they still had spies within the Citadel, the Scarlet Chorus urged you to warn the mages of the edict. Granting their request, you met with the enemy under a blue flag of peace and warned them of their doom, giving the Chorus's spies and the enemy a chance to run. You confronted the mages without a warning and hoped the message was received. The hour before sunset, numerous figures were spotted fleeing the Citadel. As the sun dipped under the horizon, you read the words of the edict. The earth shook, and the red-orange light glowed in the foundation of the sprawling citadel. Bubbling up from under the library, a torrent of lava heaved with explosive force, gushing from the windows and between loose bricks, melting winding trenches in the surrounding land. Days later, the flames still raged on, the conflagration continually fed and renewed by the power of the edict. The Edict of Fire. The armies of Kyros left the devastation of the Vellum Citadel in silence. From that day forward, the Tears came to know the once noble citadel as the Burning Library. This was an undisputed loss of resources, knowledge, culture, and life, but a message had been sent. The Overlord will not tolerate defiance. You didn't have long to rest before Tunon called you into service once more. You were one of the last to depart from the mountains, and as you journeyed off, you spotted a few campfires in the mountains. They were mere specks, dwarfed by an inferno, the last gasps of survivors, or perhaps looters from Kyros' army, bored and daring enough to pick through the ashes. Interesting. Let's go. Man, there's a lot of options you
The
can
year
take
is
there.
431, and Kyros' invasion has shattered all major opposition in the tiers. The Younger Realms, the Bastard Tier, the Free Cities. All who defied Kyros lay broken by battle, or bowed in surrender. The two armies of Favored and the Scarlet Chorus now control our lands. But our will is not yet extinguished. Not entirely. In the Valley of Vendrian's Well, those of us unwilling to bow to Kyros have banded together in defiance. Violating an oath of surrender from 2 years prior, we have staged a bloody uprising, murdering the disfavored and Scarlet Chorus garrison in a midnight assault. With their main forces spread across the tiers, the disfavored and Scarlet Chorus redeploy to Vendrian's Well to crush the resistance. But months pass with no definitive battle. As disagreement and discord paralyze the Archons, we bide our time and wait for our message of insurrection to spread across the tiers. The Overlord is not amused, and Kyros has one message for the Archons: crush the Oathbreakers or die. Kyros backs this threat with an edict, a magical commandment that can slay all in the valley should the order be ignored. The honor of proclaiming this edict fell to you. Sent across the mountains to Vendrian's Well, you carry the Overlord's edict to read before the Archons. As you finally make your way through the winding mountain passes into the valley, the ground trembles, and Kyros' magic seals the way behind you. You are trapped in Vendrian's Well, with Kyros' armies and the Oathbreakers. The only way to survive is to fulfill the terms of the Overlord's edict, in any way that you can.
Fatebinder Siren, I presume? We've been expecting you. Sweet. This is it. But we will continue in the next episode.